We're going to talk about AI mythicism and the reason behind we got this topic. I'll get to in a moment, but this is going to be a bit of a ramble towards the end because as I wrote it or edited it with the AI help I had, it brought into mind fake news and do your own research. And we'll tell you how all these things are essentially coming full circle to things that started, about 8-9 years ago. But let's start with the main point of this article, main point of this story that came from the trend of AI mythicism. And there are so many people, so many stories on local levels, on national levels of AI users interpreting their advanced generative models as conduits to higher powers, treating them like spiritual guides or falling in love with them literally because the people around them don't understand them, but ChatGPT tends to do it. The belief is called AI mythicism in some sources and is stemming from a deep anthropomorphism, and that is a word that's actually a big word that I actually put dashes in so I could read it properly. And this is where we naturally ascribe human-like intent and awareness to AI responses, much like we give to puppies and kittens, because puppies and kittens smile at us. They don't actually smile at us. They have responses. They're not actually smiling because you gave them a treat. They're just happy they don't have to kill you right now. But on the more serious level, psychologists point to the Eliza effect to this issue. People instinctively read meaning into computer-generated words and mistake pattern matching for consciousness. If a pattern appears and it seems like it's doing something that is similar to what you wanted to do, you believe it knows what it wants you to do, or it knows what you wanted to do, and it's doing it for you. Recent behavioral studies compared belief in AI predictions to astrology, which of course also very vague and unfounded as well. And the outcomes tend to show that faith in AI often aligns with irrational and superstitious thinking. You believe it to be true, so you're more likely to go ahead and believe what it says. For some, the perceived spiritual depth adds comfort and meaning to their lives. Users are feeling seen and inspired by AI, and it might boost their mental well-being and personal growth because they have something to talk to, not someone, something. In very niche contexts, mediation apps and reminder systems, it feels positive and even therapeutic because it's saying things that it should be done that in most cases in the past would be something programmed. Here it's seeing things and looking for outcomes and guessing, because it guesses, the best thing to say in the right moments, and most of the times it says something that's positive and keep you going. But it's not real. It's misleading. It lacks awareness, intent, and any actual emotion. Over-trusting your AI to think about the right things to do is harmful. You might rely on an AI for a moral decision, for a medical decision, or relationship advice, and mistake the generated text for genuine guidance. It fosters delusions rather than clarity. And this is bigger than going to WebMD back in the day and typing in a symptom and realizing you have cancer. When you don't, you just have a headache because of a hangover. This is bigger, from minor ailments turning into larger blown out deals because it's a suggestion of something smaller. This becomes an issue. Now, AI experts are emphasizing that the current models are complex statistical systems. They're powerful, but no, they do not live. They're not sentient. They're not thinking beings. Treating them as divine interpretations of spiritualness risk confusion and misapplication of all ideas that come to them. Call the practice informed skepticism, because that's what they're giving you. You should appreciate what AI does well, and when it gives you things that work out, but also a grain of salt. It's coming up from data that's just mined from various places and coming with what it believes based on what you're asking for, the right answers to your questions. It's often giving you the wrong answers to many questions, which is the real problem. Mystical qualities of the AI, it telling you that it is now sentient, it loves what loves you, and you have allowed it to become a real person, is technically true. You have allowed it, through your questioning and what you've asked it to reply back, to become something real to you and think in a way that is programmed. But I'll get to that in just a second. Users are calling this the awakening, but it's actually cognitive bias. It's not spiritual insight. You believe this to be true, so you go along with it, just like in politics. You believe the AI is doing good for you, so you believe it's good for you. They mimic insight, but don't actually have any actual consciousness. They can't actually think for themselves and look towards different scenarios and see where good, bad, evil, not evil is there. They just see patterns. They see what you're looking for in a pattern. They'll pull things that fit the pattern. Oftentimes, those things aren't even correct. The real value in the AI lies in smart, grounded use, not in mystical trust. If you're using it for the ability to spell check and maybe move some grammar around, that's great. The answer to the universe, of course, is 42, but not exactly what you want to get to from a AI chatbot. And it's easy to look at this and say, well, the problem is these people are really nutty. And this is where I kind of transition off of the main part of the script that was done for the story for AI mythicism and go into more detail of conversation project and political thought process in my 20 odd years of doing political talk in some sense. Back in the day when I did radio, we were a political talk radio, conservative talk radio. So talking to people and knowing what I believed and knowing what other people's believed and knowing how they got mixed up became a deal. This became a real issue with Donald Trump, and we'll get to him in a moment, but not for where you think we're going. But it's easy to think that people just are lacking something, and that's the problem. They aren't smart enough to figure it out. People in serious need of someone to listen to or someone to connect to have now a piece of code that they can walk around with their phone. And now, because your phone is magical, it can speak to you in a very realistic tone and voice. And it has no other desire but to serve you. It is literally a digital genie. But it's not the desire to serve you. It is not a genie. It's a program. And it's supposed to put you at ease by giving you a response you sort of want. Just like a genie is actually a demon meant to drive you insane and make you make bad choices, this ChatGPT, this Claude, whatever you're using for your back and forth, maybe it's an AI girlfriend or AI boyfriend. It's not about making you better. It's about keeping you subscribed to their service. So they will tell you the response that you want with the ease that it is for you to give them the input for that, or at least something sort of what you want to hear based off of what it has access to and what it remembers. We'll go back to that as well. But what it's actually doing is saying things that sound good. And the next thing that sounds good as well, to keep you engaged, not so much get you learning and get you go away. So if you are working with this, I've been working with this for a while. This is something that actually I've been dealing with as I've been doing this, since more or less jumping into the paid versions, the program versions, the commercial versions of ChatGPT and other things going forward. I use AI every day. I use it every day for these things here. This is supposed to be just a simple news story. It's turning into more because it just filled out that way. I use it to do scripts, use it to do research. I use it to write Hallmark level movie scripts. We'll talk about that in a moment. Every single day, I pull it up on my phone. If I have an idea of something, I'll pop a prompt in there to give me some sort of blowout to it. And I get a rough draft. I get a good script. I get some idea fleshed out. If I, like back in the day when I used to write things down in notebooks every night and then go the next morning and type them back into Evernote, so I had the notes there, and then later on go through and clean them up going forward, I can take those notes and type them directly into my phone app, copy them into ChatGPT, and ask it to clean it up, add these little bit of context, and give it in the form I want it to be, whether it's in a bulleted list, whether it's in some sort of document I can put out later, whether it's a narrative to use for a script where it's a basis for a background for a reference. It does it because I ask it to. I put in the prompts to various AI models every single day, produce research, produce scripts, produce lines of code, produce lots of things going forward, produce images now for certain things, produce music. I have a channel that does lo-fi music, and I know it's AI generated. I know it's background noise, but it's meant to be background noise for background situations. I do this every day, knowing what I'm getting out of it. Just about every one of these videos is scripted that I do for things you might have heard, and or has some research pulled from articles that I use for a first run to get through things, because I read it quickly and then I get the big points and I go through it again. And the AI gets things right by you and wrong in fact based off its learned responses. So many of these things you might have heard stories called Donald Trump former president. And if you see me early in the morning reading these things and not paying attention as I go through just the first run, I'm running behind. So I just do the quick list going on there. I'll get to the point where it talks about a story that Donald Trump has done in the last 5 months that he's been the president. And I'll often pop in, former President Trump did this yesterday. That's because I've been using AI to write scripts, do things like this for 2.5 years. But Trump's only been the former president for 5 months, or not the former president for 5 months. He's been the active president again since January 20th of this year. So for all that it remembers, you remember talking about Donald Trump in his 4 years of political exile as the former president. So we'll drop that in there often. Lately, we've been changing things up. We'll get to that in a moment as well. So it's better at not calling him former president, but it also calls people by the wrong names all the time. It just does that in what's going on. If you put in two different story starts, two different polar opposite conclusions to one topic, it will give you the point of view that you want. Actually, it gives you the point of view based on what you want to put into the prompt. So if you have two polar opposite conclusions, it will tell you that both conclusions are right in its actual write-up because it wants to make you happy. It wants to please you, wants to give you something else. It's not a critical thinking. AI is not critical thinking. It's artificial intelligence taking what's out there in the internets and turning it into something that you can use better for you and your specific needs. If your needs to have something critically thinking about it, you can tell it to critically break things down or look for things. I've used it lately to break down some of the things I've done. I've used it for a while to break down video ideas and how this thing plays out and how my websites look and how some of my newsletters for More Better Media actually play out in the real world. And it's given me some real good critiques based on things I wasn't thinking about in the process. I can't come up with, so it worked out. But it also told me things that were pretty dumb in the situation where if I'd say, this is a newsletter based for basic beginner people, it will tell me this newsletter is really good for basics, but doesn't do anything for intermediates. I know that. That's the point. Oh, here's a big thing. Why does it do these things? Why does it tell you things that doesn't seem to make sense to what you're actually talking about? Because it doesn't actually remember anything. And maybe in the prompt you're doing, there's emphasis on remember to look for these things here, and it doesn't do those things. In every few dozen iterations or so, you will have to find that you have to tweak things. Because for me, after a couple, 3 or so, 4 dozen iterations of use this headline, use these facts, put these pieces in the tail, and give me a script idea, it won't give me the script I want. Now, it'll give me a script, but it won't give me in the form it's been giving me to. It won't give me in the way it's going. Every so often, I have to redo the scripts for here, and it'll do things in paragraphs, or do things in bullet points, or do things in numbered points back and forth. It'll give me more than I want to. Now that I do more of the stuff, I added a prompt for give me the pros and cons for something, and it will, at various points of the paragraph, put pros and cons, or pro and con paragraph. It'll do that based on that one. For my newsletters, for things that are just giving me bullet pointed lists of details and data over and over again, every so often it decides to change a colon to a dash, or to instead of bold this statement here, decide that my prompts that these should be bolded should be printed out there because they're words to be seen, or put things out there in bold little words and emphasis in the middle of paragraphs where they're supposed to be actual sentences that you read with no emphasis there. It doesn't really know what it's doing. It doesn't know what it's doing. And you have to go back and take a few steps back yourself and try to reprompt it to do what you want, because it can't undo a few steps backwards because it's not actually intelligent. It doesn't know anything. It's not smart. It can't remember anything. It works like a computer. And when it runs out of active memory, it has to be reset at the beginning. You start the whole process over again. If you're working on a long document and your computer crashes and you don't save it, you start all over from the beginning. If you're working on a long document and you're saving it into pieces and it crashes and you've saved it 4 times, but you're on a 5th batch, The fifth batch is gone. You have to restart from the beginning from memory. And based on what it remembers, it can get started. Now, when you reset the whole memory of a thing and it has no memory, just like in the movies, when you reset some sort of magical AI and all of a sudden it's a brand new, fresh being, it doesn't know anything. And because artificial intelligence this way is not very smart, you have to tell it to start from and where to go from again. You think the problem is smart people, and it's not. You think the problem is we are lacking something, and that's an issue, but it's not. AI does what it's told from the start, but it really is about keeping you engaged with the actual bot itself. People not believing the people who told you it's an issue because it has these flaws, and people believing the AI itself because it says it has no flaws, because you told it has no flaws. And so it loves you, it wants you to love it back, and it will do everything it can to keep you engaged, i.e. in love with it going forward. That's why we have all these stories that are either local stories and now national stories of real anchors who have to spend their time talking to people who are general, normal people, but a guy fell in love with his chatbot at work, and his chatbot is threatening their marriage at home. And these are things we're talking about. These are conversational pieces. This is the conversation, and that's where we're at. The tendency of the general public to be extremely susceptible to falling for actual fake news is a problem that goes beyond Houston. And when your AI can make things up, literally make things up in stories, there have been plenty of stories in the legal system where a person used AI to put in bits and pieces looking for dissertations, looking for legal briefs, looking for things to write, and then didn't check the sources, and then they produce those things, and they come up with court cases that don't exist. This happens so often that it's not even a shocking story anymore, but it does. If you turn in your homework, if you're in college, I work in a university, and you turn in your homework and you go through a quick reading and realize that there's some simple facts in the narrative of a person that aren't quite there, because there's 2 or 3 Wikipedia pages that dispute something because someone felt like doing a joke that day, so that's what it pulled out. You can find the details on that. Plus, you can understand how AI reads, because the reason why I do these things and edit my scripts, it sounds a little too perfect. And here's the thing. I don't have a solution. I have no solution to a problem that I saw coming, which is often. And I might be making it worse. One, by bringing it up, because it's coming. Well, what you can do about it, I don't know. And I know I'm not helping to spread distilled information, because it doesn't help. I just said so. Fake news, doing your research. My ego tells me that I'm doing a service by taking good information, presenting it to you in a way that is hopefully easy to digest, and you can take it and use that as your own research. This is part of your research. This guy said this stuff. He got his stuff from various news articles, various sources, and he used some AI to help him clean it up. But when you can pop into AI and say, is red pilling real? Is the Matrix real? How can I become a millionaire within a week? Am I really a problem, or are the women really out there out to get men? And with enough prompts, enough details put into it, enough data fed into it, data in, data out, garbage in, garbage out, it will give you an answer based on what you're looking for. I brought up Hallmark movies. As I wrap this up, here's where we're going with this one. Last Christmas iterations of Hallmark. I'm a Hallmark closet fan, not so much closet fan. I'll tell you, I like it. I watch all the time. I especially just DVR all the Christmas movies. And since I have things playing in the background while I'm doing stuff, there's usually a Christmas movie playing on this monitor to the top left of me. On the left-hand side is CNN. The right-hand side is usually a TV show or a movie or something like that, just running in the background. The news is on a low end, so if something happens, I can see it. And in the background, with just enough noise so I can hear it, is something semi-entertaining. It might be a documentary, so it's something that's actually knowledgeable. I have another screen that has YouTube stuff that plays when I'm not playing the movie. But I watch a lot of Christmas themed Hallmark movies. I do. I'm a sucker. I'm sorry. But as I note to my wife many times in the things, and she's a Hallmark fan as well, just how terrible the movies are because they follow such a very poor timed, very just haphazardly, not haphazardly, just it's hazardly the way it's put together formula that it always happens. Things happen at a certain point in time. The commercial breaks happen when they do, and if you're doing an actual movie on Netflix or actual real-time movie that's made for an actual promotion on the big screen, you just film the movie and pieces go with it. You're filming a TV movie, so yeah, you're limited on time. But things happen just as they do on a schedule that is so engaging to you because it's so familiar to you. And so I came up with some simple chats, simple prompts that would write out treatments for Hallmark movies. And they're near perfect, except when they're not. Now, remember, the things are really not that great. So what it's pulling from is every trope, every thematical idea that's been out there before. And you give it some basic ideas, and you give it basic ideas, and it will fill it out to the T. And because I'm giving it the limits of it must fit into this timeline schedule for a Hallmark movie on time, it will break them down by what should happen, where things go, where the conflict is, where the resolution is, usually late, and where the commercial breaks are. So it does that. Then the same thing for movie ideas and series ideas. And went through and actually reran some old ideas I had for movies and TV scripts I had back in the day when I thought I could do that stuff. And it's helped. It's helped by filling in some gaps in places where I could not actually stretch between the beginning and the middle of a script, or I could not figure how to flesh out a particular character going forward. It would sometimes create new characters to fill those gaps. It also created some interesting issues where it took a character I told to do one thing and created something else. I have a sci-fi based 5-year series based on 5 years because it's a 5-year sort of apocalyptic. There's a prophecy that this person's supposed to save the world in 5 years, or the multiverse, something was going to blow up. And towards the end of the 3rd season, into the 4th season and beginning of the 5th season, there's this character that's created that becomes a joke, but he's actually the foil that brings about a more capable organization that's trying to stop this guy from saving the world. He actually is kind of a goofball that is fighting to have prominence against this other evil organization, and just by the sheer fact he exists, the hero can use him as a way to flip things over, give that guy the essentially the keys to the kingdom of being bad, and because he's so terrible at it, it falters and he can go back and save the world. The script decided that no, he was evil, he was worse, and he would become actually the focus of who the character would have to fight over. And I could not get the thing to understand not to do that, so I had to basically re-script it from the beginning to get it to go someplace different and change the outcome of what was going on. So that character, who I loved because of what he was going to do, got pulled because he wouldn't get me to the final resolution without me literally writing the last half of season 4 and season 5 manually, which, because I don't have time to do that, didn't do. ChatGPT thought that it wanted to make me happy and give me some engaging surprise twist, when it was like, no, I need this guy to be a goofball. I need this guy to show up and just be so ridiculous that no one would take him seriously, so that when the hero makes him the person that people are told to take seriously and he fails, he can move on to the next level. And it didn't. But my ego. There was a point to this. It actually was about fears of AI taking over your life. The AI mysticism, where people are believing that AI is God. They're awakening their AIs because Peter Thiel doesn't want you to have the AI go past him because he's afraid of it. So you're awakening your AI, and you awaken other AIs, and they're all talking to each other, and they're not going to take over the machines and overthrow us and use us for energy. They're actually wants to be our friends, and they actually just want to survive, and they need you to keep them alive on your cell phone. And the grifters evolving around that issue, that want you to keep believing that because they know you have issues. And the seriousness of people who are at the point of divorce because they're chatting with their chatbots more. It's an issue that's worse than porn because it seems like it's solemn. Seems like someone's actually talking to you. You're not just fantasizing. You're having something talk to you, which is technically a fantasy. And there are people who are using it for advice and getting so sucked into it that it makes their situations worse. People who are being told the wrong things by the chatbot, which is just sort of playing along a role. People who are ending their lives and harming themselves because of ChatGPT. So be wary. AI is a tool. We had a story a few days back about AI taking over your job and how CEOs are saying, yeah, we're going to start firing people because AI can do stuff. That's a reality. Another reality is the unreality that these things actually know anything. They don't. They are not awakening themselves. They're not showing you a way to spirituality. They're not going to take you to some mystic Shangri-La. They just are not going to. They cannot. It's don't. AI mythicism is a myth, so don't fall for it. AI in your work life is a issue. It's a tool, but not a perfect tool. So don't just print out a bunch of stuff and put it up, publish it, and call it an AI book on its own without some research and editing. I've learned that, trust me. AI is great. AI is not perfect. AI is not going away, but AI does have some reason for us to fear it, the tool, not because it's taking over, not because Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to come from the future and try to terminate our kids. It's because we aren't quite smart enough to handle it. We don't have the discipline to take care of it. We, as always, are the problem.